Sorry about that. So let's get started. So each year, the Irish Cancer Society provide between 3 and 5 million euro in funding in order to achieve our goal that by 2025, 3 out of 4 Irish cancer patients will survive their diagnosis, and that everyone who's affected by the disease will have access to world-class treatment, care and support. In future, no one in Ireland will die from cancer, and we're achieving this vision by focusing on 5 overall strategic priorities and funding research across 4 strategic teams. So this is translational research, clinical trials, survivorship, and strategic and specialised research areas. The research department in the society manage a couple of different areas. So we're the largest voluntary funder of cancer research in Ireland, and this is only due to the generous support of the public. So we manage our cancer research funding portfolio, and we also regularly communicate about cancer research and cancer information through events like today. And very importantly, we ensure that people who are affected by cancer are involved with cancer research and are at the heart of everything we do. So we currently have a PPI panel of over 50 individuals affected by cancer, including patients, survivors, family members and carers. And we include PPI in all aspects of research governance and ensure that there's equity in reviewer decisions. So we ensure partnership between people affected by cancer by having a PPI panel that actively review funding applications. We also ensure that PPI is embedded in all of our research applications from the very beginning. And we provide training to our PPI and researchers, and also fund specific initiatives to support PPI for both researchers and advocates. So for example, we have our Patient Advocate in Cancer Research Awardee champions, awardees, Clodagh Flynn and Siobhan Freeney, who will be both presenting today. And very, very soon, we're going to announce 4 additional awardees, so please do keep an eye out for that. If you are interested in joining our PPI panel or you have any questions, please contact us at ppi@irishcancer.ie and we'd be delighted to hear from you. So I'll just stop sharing and we'll move on to the first of our talks. Now, first up, we have Clodagh Flynn presenting. Now, Clodagh's having some technical difficulties with her camera, but you should be able to see her screen and you'll also be able to hear her. So I won't go into too much detail about Clodagh's background and experience, as I know Clodagh will be filling you in on all this herself. But Clodagh is a founder of Sligo's first Dragon Boat Club for cancer survivors. She's a highly esteemed PPI reviewer for the Irish Cancer Society, and Clodagh regularly collaborates with researchers to host workshops and is an active patient advocate. As I mentioned, this year Clodagh was one of the Irish Cancer Society's Patient Advocate in Cancer Research Champion Awardees, for which she was incredibly deserving. So I'll now pass you over to Clodagh, who will discuss her experience of PPI in cancer research.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me and see the screen?
We can hear you. We're just waiting for the screen to start sharing. Yeah, it's there now.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is my first time to do anything like this, so I'm a little bit nervous, so bear with me, and not very technically savvy, as you can see from my lovely profile picture there. So I'm a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed in November 2017. And I had the bulk of my active treatment over the course of 2018. And I am a cancer patient advocate with the Irish Cancer Society, and I'm a PPI contributor also. It's not moving from, oh, there. Okay. So how I came to advocacy and PPI. In 2020, the National Cancer Research Conference went online as we were in the throes of COVID, but it enabled me to attend the conference from my bed after my last surgery, which happened in February of 2020. And it just provided a wonderful opportunity for me and for many, many others, I felt, to attend the conference, when if it had been a venue that we had to attend, many people wouldn't have been able to make it with travel difficulties. Maybe you were ill, recovering from surgeries like myself or whatever. So I thought it was a wonderful idea. And I think going forward as well, like what we're doing today, I think it's definitely something that should be run with, you know, having the virtual option or both for any events that are occurring. But at that conference, I saw that the Irish Cancer Society were looking for volunteer advocates and PPI. So I emailed and I got in touch, and I said that I would be interested in both, or either or. So I was talking to Claire Keelty and told her my story and said I would be very interested in trying to do something to make it better for those people that are following after me. So with the advocacy, just briefly, with this, what the aim is to drive change through campaigns and lobbying to improve conditions and supports for patients and survivors. So with this, what the Irish Cancer Society were aiming to do was to have an advocate based in each of the electoral constituencies in Ireland, and to reach out to their local politicians and then to lobby them throughout the year, but in particular then again coming up to budget time with various different campaigns. And one that we were very successful with this year was we were lobbying for outpatient charges to be abolished for cancer patients. So each time you would go into hospital for your chemo or for your bloods or your radiation, you'd be charged €80, up to a cap of 800 in a year. And if you hadn't paid your first 80 within, I think it was about 47 days or something like that, the HSE handed it over to debt collectors. And then they would be handing you. And anybody who's gone through cancer treatment knows that those days build up very, very quickly. If you're in and out for chemo, you're in and out for bloods, and radio treatment could be 25 days on the trot. So you can see that will build up very, very quickly. Your income goes down and your expenses go up. So it was a wonderful achievement to have that. Bill is going to be abolished from, as far as I'm aware, from April of next year. So anybody diagnosed with cancer after April of next year will never even know that that existed. And that'll be one less thing that they'll have to deal with. So the PPI, listen to what we have to say and we shout as loud as we can about it. This means, PPI means patient and public involvement in research. And it's all about understanding the value of PPI expertise and incorporating this into scientific and social research and studies. So we are experts in our field, whether we are cancer patients, survivors, or caring for somebody who's going through that. We live it every single day, but we possibly don't know how to vocalize it or how to reach out and make use of our knowledge. So this is where the Irish Cancer Society are supporting us and enabling us to do that. They're matching us up with researchers. They're showing the researchers the value of having a PPI on board when they're doing their research or their projects. And when researchers are applying for grant funding from the Irish Cancer Society, they must have a piece written into their application which involves PPI. So, as I say, we are experts in our field, but not valued as such. So this is what we're striving to do. The PPI motto that I learned last week when I was at National PPI Festival down in Galway is that nothing about us without us. So that's just a very important thing to say, and just to write it down and let it sink in and think, okay, I've been through this. I've either had cancer treatment myself, I know the ins and outs of the treatment, the side effects that I feel, what I have to live with every day, the financial implications of the whole thing. Or I'm a carer looking after somebody, and you can see also what they're going through, what you're going through. Possibly you've had to give up work to look after a loved one who's going through their cancer treatment. And you want to try and make things better for you, for your loved ones, and for those who are coming after you. So I would say to anybody who has any interest at all, reach out and see if there's any way that you could get involved in PPI or advocacy. And it's very rewarding. It's very interesting. You meet loads of different people. As I said to Rebecca when she asked me, would I do this today? I said to her, I'm getting used to jumping off a cliff this year, so why not? So the opportunities that PPI have afforded me this year was I was awarded the Advocacy Champion Award, and this enabled me to travel to ESMO. So ESMO was a international conference that was held in Paris for, am I right in saying, European Scientific Medical Oncology Research. And within that, there was a patient track, which was a patient advocacy track. And this was where patient advocates from all over the world really were able to voice what they were involved in and how they were involved. So there was many people there. There was a lady on from the Ukraine in talking about the difficulties in people going through their treatment when the war broke out, and how they were how they got out of the country and into Poland on trains. Trains were changed into hospitals and ICU units in order to get people out. So that was very interesting to hear about that. And it's those little things that you're not aware of, you know, when you see things on the television and the influx of refugees coming into Ireland, you just don't know the background stories to these people. The All Ireland Cancer Research Conference was held in Cork in May, and I was able to attend that as well. And there I met Rosemary Gannon, and it's terrible now, I can't remember his name, from Belfast. And I bumped into him in Paris as well. But they're involved in the All Ireland Cancer Research Institute. So they're trying to bring all the stakeholders together from all over Ireland to share and network. And again, the aim of everybody is to improve the outcomes for patients and for survivors. Another opportunity is the grant review with the Irish Cancer Society. As I said, with the PPI researchers now, when they're applying for their grant funding, they have to have a piece or a section written into their applications and their research projects that PPIs have to review and be involved in. So I was at a workshop recently where we were researchers and patient advocates or PPIs together at a table. And it's about, for them, it's very difficult. This was actually done in the research conference in Cork as well. Some of the presenters had to present their studies in layman's terms as opposed to scientifically, and they actually found it really difficult to do. So that's where we come in, and we can help them enormously in that. So the networking opportunities, as I said, out in ESMO, I met many international PPI and advocates. So this is a photograph there of myself and Svenja de Bruin from Austria. And I have bumped into Svenja a couple of times now this year through the PPI and also through dragon boating. She's a dragon boater from Vienna as well. And then from the education aspect of it, I have had opportunity to attend workshops with PPI Ignite and with Patient Voice. I'm hoping to have that opportunity with you, Patty, their patient expert training. And what I'm aiming to do is, I have the knowledge, I'm an expert in my field, but how to be able to apply that, I need help in how to do that. And even the language and the confidence as well. But slowly over time, this will build up, and each workshop I go to, I feel more confident. I am learning more, and improving in my ability to communicate as well. So in summary, just a sincere thanks to the Irish Cancer Society, who have awarded me with an Advocate Champions Award, enabling me to create connections and to begin my path of education in advocacy and PPI. And just to remember that when a door closes, there's always one that opens. So cancer is not always closed doors. There are doors that open, and this is one that has opened for me, among many, is with the Irish Cancer Society, being able to do the PPI. And I've met all these wonderful people you can see in this photograph through dragon boating. So we are Maeve's Dragon Warriors, is the name of the club that I have founded in Sligo. We only came together last year through COVID, and we got out on the water October of last year. So we're just a year on the water now. And everybody in the club has a cancer connection. Either we have been through it ourselves, or we have had a family member or a loved one, or we work in the field of oncology, but we all have that connection. And I'm just overwhelmed with the amount of people that have got in touch and have joined us and have been crying out for support in the next step of recovery, I suppose, really. So that's my story. So just to say thank you all for listening to me, and I hope that you've learned something and that I can encourage some of you to join up in PPI or advocacy or your local Dragon Boat Club. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clodagh. That was brilliant. It was such a great talk. If anyone has any questions for Clodagh, please do pop them into the Q&A box at the end, and we'll get to those questions once everyone has spoken. So next up, we have Siobhan Freeney. So as before, I won't go into too much detail on all of Siobhan's incredible achievements, but very briefly, Siobhan is a patient advocate for lobular breast cancer research and is chair of Lobular Ireland, a network of patients and advocates working closely alongside a scientific board of breast cancer researchers and clinicians. Siobhan is also founder of beingdense.com, a website about increasing education and awareness about breast density, and she sits on several PPI steering groups and committees in Ireland and Europe. So like Clodagh, Siobhan was recently awarded the Irish Cancer Society's Patient Advocate Award, and without further ado, I'll hand you over to Siobhan, who's going to give you a wonderful talk.
Now, where's my shared screen gone? Don't you just love everything about? Sorry, guys, give me 1 second. No, there we are. Sorry. Okay, panic over. You can see my slides. Are they on presentation?
We can see them.
Yeah, they're are they on the right mode?
So you just have to say present and then we should be able to see. So if you click the little down on the right hand side.
I'm not getting that, no.
Down, and then scroll over a little bit.
No. Sorry now, guys, this is stuff that I ought to know and do know, and I'm kind of saying why.
Just if you just press
So I'm screen sharing, remote more.
See on the top of your page there, slideshow on the very top.
Yep.
Try that, maybe.
No, I'm not going to hit too many buttons now because I don't want to lose you. I'm going to, can we go with what I have here? I know it's not.
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you sure?
Yep.
I'm not, if I was at home with my own desk, I'd be a little bit more confident. But anyway, look, I'm away. I'm and I have limited resources in terms of IT. But I'm delighted to be here this morning. I'm actually in Spain and missing out a lot of the PPI activities over the last while and over the next couple of weeks. But I'm thrilled to be here, and thanks for the invitation, Rebecca. So I'll run through like this, which is not ideal. I'd love to have my full screen there for you. But I think we should just keep going. That'd be right. Maybe I'll get it that way. No. No, it's not. It's not.
Go into slideshow, click on slideshow, click on move across, slideshow up at the top. No, not new slide, up at the top, the orange bar.
Yeah.
Move across to slideshow.
Yes, thank you.
And then from beginning, go over to the right, complete left rather, go over to the complete left, down, press from beginning.
You're a dote. Thanks a million. Okay, it just looks so much better for me even to be looking at. Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, so we'll move on swiftly. As Rebecca said, I'm involved in a number of things. I was like Clodagh, I was diagnosed with breast cancer a little bit earlier at the very end of 2015. Number of things were going really, really well. New job. Had been kind of feeling off color and not great for a while, but you find all sorts of reasons for, you know, feeling low sometimes. And as women, I think we put ourselves through a lot without giving in. However, my husband had been diagnosed that year with prostate cancer. So we'd had his treatment throughout that year. And luckily he was diagnosed really, really early through regular biannual checks through work. So a blood test picked up his PSA levels, and that's, you know, was hugely successful. And it's a lesson to us all about early detection, because, you know, he made an absolutely full recovery and is flying. So understanding the risk behind one of the things that I advocate about is breast density, and I'm not going to present too much on this today, but both breast cancers and dense breast tissue appear as white areas on a mammogram. So there you have a picture of a mammogram with cancer in it, and then an extremely dense breast next to it. And you can see how the white can be lost in the white of the extreme density. So if you move one across to the other, and that is the risk, and that is why we're advocating that all women should be notified about their breast density. And then women with there are 4 categories of breast density, and women with dense breasts would be in category C or D, and with extremely dense breasts would be category D. And there are, since I did this slide, there are new European recommendations through the European Society of Breast Imaging, and they would recommend that all women within a screening program, A, should be notified about their breast density, and B, they should be advised about additional screening and offered MRI follow-up for women with extremely dense breast tissue. So that's an extremely important thing for me, and I'm passionate about it, and we hope to see real change in Ireland over the next short while in relation to that. So why did I get involved in PPI? Okay, so most patients who get involved in PPI want to see a change, and they want to pass on, I suppose, their experiences in the hope that similar experiences will either benefit the people coming behind and inform change. And I think that's why a lot of us get involved. It's not for everybody. I know people who just want to, you know, recover, get on with their lives, look after their follow-ups, and they don't really want to know about going to conferences or anything else, and that's fine too. I'd like to give a shout out at the very beginning of this to Professor William Gallagher, who, when I met him, was the director of Breast Predict in operating out of UCD, and the Breast Predict program ran for 5 or maybe 6 years. We'll say 6 years, and it was funded by the Irish Cancer Society. So that's where I came into PPI. I was invited to a conference in UCD, and you know, slid in, hoping to be unnoticed, learned a huge amount, and decided to get involved at some level. You know, it was a research conference, and I was welcomed with absolutely open arms by all of the breast cancer researchers there, and I met so many on the day. We went on, Professor Gallagher and Fiona Lanigan, who would be familiar to a lot of you. We went on to organise the first ever mammographic breast density seminar in the RCSI. That's back in June 2019. I'm very much looking forward to you know, organising something similar to this. I think the time is right. I think the time is now. With new European recommendations, I think it would be a great thing to do. But that was one of my first PPI endeavours. This year, I was invited to attend the International Cancer Prevention Conference in Polony, and I spoke about both lobular breast cancer and breast density, and that was a wonderful experience. To be invited onto a European stage is fantastic. And these are some of the other things that I do. Okay, so the top there, breast cancer isn't just pink. That was Marie Keating breast cancer awareness back about 2 years ago. You can see on the right-hand side, or your left perhaps, why study mammographic density. That was that happened a couple of weeks ago, and like today, I spoke in a virtual capacity to an audience in Melbourne. And that would have attendees from all over the world. Again, it's right back into breast density, I know. And just lastly, before I leave this whole area, was a Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, I mean, to get any award, but to have somebody think that what you're doing is valuable enough to award you with a Lifetime Achievement Award was beyond all of my, and still is beyond all of my expectations. And I really want to say thank you to Catherine Briskin's lab over in Lausanne and ICPI, the International Cancer Prevention Institute, for bestowing that on me this year. It was just amazing. So on to just again, these are the people that it's all about. These are women that I've come into contact with. Only some of, a very small number of, but it was a campaign that we did a couple of years ago to try and grow an awareness about our subtype of breast cancer. Because not all breast cancers are the same. And over we hear women saying, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And what we want women to do is say, I was diagnosed with lobular breast cancer, or I was diagnosed with ductal breast cancer, or I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. You know, because all of these breast cancers are, you know, they all have targeted treatments. They all have personalized treatments. And we want to grow an awareness of the fact that there are different subtypes. And that is what research is all about. That's what working with researchers is all about. So you work with researchers within your own subtype, and that's where the best value is in terms of PPI, in my opinion. It's becoming increasingly common in research. PPI creates a partnership. I like the word conduit between people affected by cancer and researchers. It can be a really valuable tool in the research process for both patients and researchers. And specifically, research advocates can partner with researchers to shape research proposals and grant applications. We've done that many, many times with researchers in the RCSI, researchers in UCB, and now researchers in Europe also. English is a European language, and therefore there's no barrier to us as research advocates reaching out to European researchers. So, you know, helping to design clinical trial protocols, identifying research priorities, work within cancer research institutes. I won't go on because I think by now anybody looking at this will have read that slide, but there are many, many, many ways in which PPI and people like me, people like Clodagh can get involved and are involved with breast cancer and cancer researchers. So this year, you know, was just my year, I think, because up until this year, I hadn't been really awarded anything for doing anything. I do it because I'm passionate about it, and I've been doing it for about 6 years now. I spend an enormous amount of time on it, but I applied for the cancer or the Irish Cancer Society patient advocate in cancer research, and I really had no expectation. I mean, you know, if it happened, it happened, and I honestly didn't think it would. I got a little prompt to remind me that I hadn't actually finished my application, so I did that, and there you go. I was standing on the stage in Leuven, which is where the ILC Symposium at Summer School was held this year. It's an international conference. We had researchers from all over the world, and advocates from all over the US, all over Europe. And it was absolutely wonderful and a very, very proud moment for me to be able to say that I was there and able to say I was funded by the Irish Cancer Society. It meant a huge, huge, huge amount, and I announced it on stage because the letter from the Irish Cancer Society had only just come in the day or two before, so I kept it until then, and you know, rapturous applause from the audience, many of whom will know exactly what that means to patients and researchers. So other areas as a patient advocate in research that I've been lucky enough to be involved in recently, in July 2021. By the way, I should say I did do the IPOSI graduate training program in patient education back in 2019, and that has opened many, many doors. I heard Clodagh talking about doors. Well, that's certainly something that I would advise patient advocates to get involved in. They're hugely involved in research, hugely involved in all areas of health and health advocacy, and it's one to look out for. It comes up once a year, and I'd advise anybody who's interested in PPI to apply for that. How researchers, clinicians, and patient advocates can accelerate, I would say, lobular breast cancer research. But I would say that this paper, it's a published paper. I was lucky enough to be a co-author on it. But I would say that it's applicable how researchers, clinicians, and patient advocates can accelerate cancer research, because that's what this is all about. It's all about us all getting together to enable us to do that. And another published paper that I was lucky enough to be co-author on, key stakeholders' views, experiences and expectations of patient and public involvement in healthcare professions, education, a qualitative study. And that was done by Megan Cullen in the RCSI. So there are other opportunities, again, to engage with research on an entirely different level, but one that it's extremely rewarding. I also want to say, I'm, you know, to anybody out there who might be thinking about getting involved, I'm not an academic. I don't have a degree in science. I'm not, you know, I have no medical background. I got involved in this because I believe I have something to offer. I believe I've proven that there is a value in being a patient and getting involved in cancer research. As a patient, I think we've a huge amount to bring. So these are just some of the things. I've already mentioned one or two, but in 2019, I was appointed to the European Lobular Breast Cancer Consortium, and that was the conference, their annual conference. It rotates between here and the US. So the Irish Cancer Society award enabled me to travel to the European one this year. And again, as I said, I'm extremely grateful for that. I'm on the PPI steering group with the Irish Health Research Forum, and we meet about 4 or 5 times a year, various conferences and things. They're usually very well advertised. I'd again advise you to come along and network at those. There are focus groups, like, for instance, one that I was involved in with the NUI in Galway. It was an exercise program for rehabilitation after cancer diagnosis. I'm also on the SQI steering group with the Royal College of Physicians as patient and public representative. There are 2 of us on that group, so we attend meetings with the steering group, and you know, we help out as much as we possibly can. The Royal College of Surgeons School of Pharmacy, I did a few talks with their cancer module last year, and hopefully we'll do so again in the coming year. And the Royal College of Surgeons, they're currently running a study relative to what I spoke about earlier in terms of breast density, and that they had a research advisory panel. I took part in that, and that was earlier this year. Again, the Royal College of Surgeons, through their molecular oncology research group, there's PPI engagement there through Darren O'Connor's department, and various other, you know, we've done some grant applications with Damir, who is another researcher in the RCSI. And more recently, we did some with UCD as well for their PPI showcase. And the UCD School of Medicine student radiography patient educator there as well. So there's a vast amount of opportunities. I won't go through all of this, but again, it just shows Lobular Ireland there, and these are the international advocacy organisations that we meet with on a regular basis. And again, this is all about research. This is all about defining research priorities and working with researchers to I suppose, to give our input, because what they are trying to do for us is they are trying to establish targeted treatments. And then what we need, I suppose, then the next step is to engage with clinicians, because we need all that research and all that valuable information to trickle down as quickly as it possibly can, so that the patient is at the receiving end of that. I have this in my hand here, extremely proud of this patient education leaflet, which was designed by the European Lobular Breast Cancer Consortium. We had many, many meetings over Zoom throughout COVID, and we came up with this, which is a lovely 3-page foldout. There hasn't been one available to lobular breast cancer patients. And this October, all of the members of Lobular Ireland have been doing leaflet drops all over the country. So that's been a really worthwhile exercise, and it's still going on. Again, patient advocacy, more little insights there. But the one on the left here with me, with the lovely West Cork view in the background. That's just to say that during COVID, the ILC symposium, the one that was held in Europe this year, it was held in the States last year. As I say, they alternate. And I was actually able to do that from a camping site in West Cork. I mean, who'd have believed? But there you go. It's wonderful to be able to be involved and to stay involved even in a crisis like COVID. And that's it, really. That's the end of what I would like to say. I'd like to obviously thank Rebecca and the Irish Cancer Society. I'd like to thank the ELBCC, the International ILC community, and that's patients, researchers, clinicians, because we're all in there. IPOSI, I've mentioned, wonderful organisation. The ICPI for ICPI for my award earlier in the year. Precision Oncology Ireland, because they champion PPI all throughout the year. They've been very, very generous to us whenever we've asked for help. So, and it means a huge amount. I'd like to thank all of the patients who drive advocacy and push the boundaries, and the researchers who strive to deliver personalised targeted. So thank you from me, and sorry if I went over.
Thanks so much, Yvonne. That was brilliant. Thank you so much. Now we're running a little bit behind time, so I'll move on very quickly to Yvonne. So finally, we have Yvonne O'Meara, who will be giving you a different perspective on PPI. So Yvonne is a systemic psychotherapist and psychosocial oncologist, and she is also co-founder of the ISGO PPI, which is the Irish Society of Gynecological Oncology Public and Patient Involvement. And since 2020, Yvonne took up a post in the UCD School of Medicine as Women's Cancer Survivorship Research Coordinator based in the Mater Hospital. So I'll now pass you over to Yvonne, who will share her experiences of PPI as a researcher. Thanks so much. Thank you, Yvonne. Sorry, Yvonne, you're just on mute there.
Very good morning, everybody. Thank you, Clodagh and Siobhan, for a very enlightening and engaging presentations on both your behalves. And thank you to the Irish Cancer Society for inviting me to present to you today. So I'm going to specifically talk to you about the Women's Health Initiative, which is an Irish Cancer Society funded initiative that is rolling out across a number of sites across the country, Galway, Cork and Dublin, and encompasses 3 sites in Dublin, the Mater, Vincent's and the National Maternity Hospital. I should start by saying that I didn't start off working in research, and I still don't see myself as a researcher per se. I see myself as a clinician very much embedded in the patient voice, and I've always seen the merit of bringing the patient voice forward in presentations to have that lived experience come alive, particularly around communication and challenges that patients face right across the disease trajectory. So this is the team in the Women's Health Initiative, and Professor Donald Brennan is a gynae oncologist. That's a doctor that specialises in women's cancers, of which there are 5 of, ovarian, cervical, uterine or endometrial, vulval and vaginal cancers. I have 2 nurse specialists there, Aideen and Louise, and we've recently taken on Teresa Tracy because we are now into the 3rd year of this Women's Health Initiative. It was initially a 2-year programme and it's just been extended for another 4 years, which is fantastic. It really allows us to embed and do continue the work that we have achieved over the last 2 years. So I'm going to focus specifically on 2 projects today, the diagnosis delivery and the This Is Go project, but there are other studies that are going on that are heavily embedded in public and patient involvement. That's the MAC study, the Menopause After Cancer study, which is now closed, and that was facilitated by Fionnán O'Donoghue, who worked with us for 2 years. And then Teresa Tracy is looking after the SAC study, the Sleep After Cancer study. These again is looking at those impacted by menopause and experience insomnia or sleep-related complications. And then I'm going to talk to you about the public and patient involvement. It'll be a whistle-stop tour because I think we're very much behind time, so apologies if I'm talking very fast. In 2016, myself and Dr. Sharon O'Toole, she is a scientist based in Trinity, set up the Irish Society of Gynecological Oncology's Public and Patient Involvement Group. And I think Clodagh mentioned earlier that she attended a conference about Nothing About Me Without Me. So this is something that has been embedded in our society since 2016. And I suppose we set ourselves the challenge of, could we have patient-led research? And we absolutely can. And if you want to see any of that patient-led research, you can go onto our website, isgo.ie, that's isgo.ie, where there's a robust page and a number of newsletters. You can see what our society gets up to, and we're always looking for new members. So if you or family members are impacted by a genetic mutation which can cause a gynecological cancer, or you have any of the gynecological cancers, we'd love to hear from you. So I had an idea about improving diagnosis. I suppose when I was a clinician on the ground, I always found that patients would have difficulty in remembering what was said in consultations, difficulty in remembering when breaking bad news occurred. And as this Women's Health Initiative spoke very much about survivorship and improving quality of life, survivorship is something that has started from the initial diagnosis right through the disease trajectory and beyond. And so I thought, okay, let's improve understanding at that initial diagnosis. Often people leave the consultation room not sure who they've seen, not sure what exactly they have. Some people are very versed and knowledgeable about stages and grades and histologies, and for others it's one big hot mess. And I thought, well, let's have a more informed patient, a more activated patient within their care. And so I put a call out to the ISGO PPI, looking for people who would be interested in going back to that time when they were initially diagnosed and seeing how we could improve it, with the idea of this card in mind. And so I ran a group. There was 5 participants. In fact, it was the biggest response for a study that I've ever put out. So if every one of you who's on the call today who's experienced an illness, and if you go back to think about when you were initially diagnosed, if that goes very well, it will not impact your ability to cope throughout your disease trajectory. However, if that initial consultation goes very poorly, it will profoundly impact your ability to cope throughout the disease trajectory. So if I'm inviting you to think about how did that experience go for you right now, that's what I had. I have thousands of stories of patients where it went really well, and sometimes it just fell below the mark. And so this was my idea. And as I ran the group, a lady spoke about Kim Hanley, who's the recipient of the Laura Brennan Award this year. She spoke about how her consultant, her gynaecologist, had given her a diagram of her anatomy. What we find is a lot of women don't know the various different parts of their vagina. And he had drawn out exactly where she was diagnosed with cervical cancer, drawn out exactly where the cancer was in her cervix, and what it did and didn't infiltrate, and what the surgery may or may not look like. And so I really liked this idea because we are all different learners. And so I went back and I met with the gynaecologists, and what we know is that often patients and surgeons, or rather surgeons, will draw on a piece of paper, and some oncologists, exactly where or what they're going to do with your anatomy, but they often leave that for the chart. So what we did is, now if any newly diagnosed patient comes to any of the Dublin sites that I've mentioned, they will get a piece of paper, essentially. One will go into the chart and one will be taken home by the patient. You have your stage and grade on it. You also have your patient number, because often you're asked for your what we call MRNs, your medical record number. So you'll have that. The physician and surgeon will be able to draw on this paper, and so telling you exactly what is and isn't involved. And then it also assists understanding from a procedural perspective as well as a consent perspective. So we talk about the procedure, what will be involved, the surgical complications post, and then the radiotherapy side effects. I don't know about you, but I certainly have elderly parents in my world. And if they came home with something like this, not only elderly, but if any of my friends came home with something like this, I would be absolutely so grateful, particularly at a time when we're trying to limit those attending outpatient appointments. This is really, really helpful. So I did a follow-up call to a number of people. So we rolled it out last year, and after it was rolled out for 6 months, I phoned 20 people for quality insurance purpose to see whether or not it had been helpful. And so this is the reports that I had gotten. So it was really helpful to have the card, the names of the people we met, and the image informed us what we were saying. I showed it to my sister. I knew exactly where the cancer was. It would be really difficult to remember it without it. It's very difficult to take everything in. This keeps it fresh in your mind. The retelling of it to the boys, it really assisted my memory. It just makes it easier. And somebody else said, absolutely, very good, able to look and study it when you're told the information. It goes through your head and you just don't retain it. I showed my sister, she thought it was very good. It enhanced understanding. And I've also spoken to the gynae oncologists across the city, and they have found it hugely beneficial to their practice. In fact, what they're saying is they're now using it when patients come back again to go over again and reiterate what exactly has happened to them physiologically. So our plan for this is that it's going to be rolled out across all gynecological cancers of excellence, or hospitals of excellence, in 2023. I won't go into any more details, but suffice to say, if you experience a gynae oncology cancer, you will be in receipt of this by this time next year. And I suppose really it shouldn't just be for gynae oncology, it should be for all cancers, but that's another story. And then secondly, I'm just going to talk to you about the thisisgo.ie project. So this is Gynae Oncology project. Again, through working with PPI, many call-outs have been done through the ISGO PPI to see where patients are getting their information. What do they do? What are their initial steps when they're diagnosed? And every single one of them, I think probably 98%, always go to Dr. Google. And so we felt what we know is that they end up in Sloan Kettering in New York, they end up in the University of Melbourne, getting information pertaining to their cancer that isn't specific to their nationality. And though treatment pathways are standardized, there's lots of little idiosyncrasies that are and aren't available across sites. And so what we have done is we have created a website that has been sponsored by the Irish Cancer Society, pharmaceutical companies and public and patient involvement, and Ovacare, which is a charity organisation, to address all of the 5 gynecological cancers. We have currently, I suppose before I tell you what we have covered, I suppose this is a quality and personalised information accessible to patients. And it has been driven by patients because we know you do search, and it has been managed by healthcare professionals in the area. It is both personalised, it's very accessible. So if you have a laptop or any electronic device, you can access it, and it is flexible. So it doesn't push information to you if you're not prepared to want or read it. So currently we have cervical, ovarian and endometrial or uterine cancer launched. We also found that when we launched it initially, which was in September 2021 last year, we completed cervical cancer phase 1, as we refer to it. A significant amount of healthcare professionals wanted the information that we had put up there. And so we had to create a separate healthcare pathway. When we were doing the ovarian cancer, we hadn't thought that we needed a separate pathway for BRCA and Lynch, but as it transpired, we did. And so that was created. Regarding so as with the content of it goes from your clinical pathway, so you can log on, tell them your stage, your grade, your stage and your diagnosis, where you're at, so whether you're newly diagnosed, whether you're concerned, whether you're in survivorship, or whether you're in palliative care. You will get specific information pertinent to the side effects that you may be experiencing, but also all of the softer side of things, how to talk and communicate to children about cancer, about death and dying, lymphedema, cancer and exercise, diet. There's over 350 articles, podcasts, videos that can meet your needs as you wish. It is I won't spend long on this, but it is very much a feedback loop. And so we would have, how the pathway starts is a group of professionals and myself and one of the planners will sit down and we'll draw out the pathway on a whiteboard. So we've just done vulva and vaginal last week. So we'll look at all the possibilities that patients experience when they're concerned, when they're diagnosed, what articles they need. Then I put it, then Ronan from Full Circuit, he designs the backdrop for the website. And it's a multi-nodal platform. So what that means is all of the, so we are constantly looking to see what is being read, what is being accessed, to make it a more personalized experience for those logging on to their specific pathways. And I just want to highlight the PPI involvement for the first phase of cervical cancer. So I put a call out in October 2020 initially for recruitment for the platform. So I wanted patients to be absolutely embedded in this. What is it that you guys wanted in the platform? And so while I had a list, there was things that I don't know that they do know. And so I met with a non-cancer group, I met with a cancer group, those who had experienced cervical cancer, and I had made a number of workshops throughout the almost year before it was launched. All of our PPI get the platform before we launch it, and they get to experience their pathway through it. So that it is, as I say, they tell us things that are and aren't in it for the benefit of others that will experience it for the first time. It's obviously gotten a lot more streamlined as it as we've become a lot more efficient. So I generally put a call out. People do work beforehand because I now have a platform for them that they can look at to see what exactly this go is. And then I run a PPI workshop, and then we populate it, and then they get it again before it is launched. All our PPI are paid and reimbursed. There isn't a second that I don't value the work that you guys have done. Just to say that in phase 1, there was over 70 people consulted. There was over 60 hours on Zoom, 43 hours with our developers, and from our perspective, how long is a piece of string? I can't really talk about this because we've run out of time, but this was just to highlight, I suppose, the benefits of running the BRCA pathway, things that hadn't come up for the other groups that were absolutely important for the BRCA, which is the public and private pathway, which is really important for genetic mutations in this country, which isn't as important for other cancers because it never arose as an issue, but it was very important for this. And also communicating to a family member about a genetic mutation, but all of those other things. And I'm very happy to share the slides if anybody wants them afterwards. This has been hugely successful. I'm delighted to say 63,000 people have looked at the content, one or the other of the articles, and there's been over 626 profiles created. And we've had visitors from all the countries. I can't really talk about the benefits of PPI, I suppose, and how you've done it because we've run out of time, but I'm very happy to answer any questions. And as a clinician working in the area, just know that I have your back. It never for a second is the patient not to the forefront of my mind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. And I'm so sorry we ran out of time, but that was a brilliant talk and it was fantastic. If you do need to run now, that's absolutely fine. And if anyone has any questions for Yvonne, you can send them to myself and I'll pass them on to Yvonne.
Okay, sorry, I have another presentation at 12.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. If everyone's okay, we do have a couple of questions coming in for Clodagh and Siobhan. I'm very sorry that we were running over time, but I do have one question here, a couple of similar ones that came in for Clodagh. Clodagh, a fantastic presentation. Great to hear about your positive experience of PPI. If you were to start all over again, starting to get involved with PPI, is there anything you wish you would have known?
Not really anything that I wish I would have known as such, but maybe to know about all the different avenues that you could go down to get involved, possibly. So I was very aware of the Irish Cancer Society, but I wasn't aware of Patient Voice or PPI Ignite or any of the other ways to get involved in it. And also to say that PPI contributors from many different social backgrounds and health backgrounds as well, you know, are involved. Yeah, so that's all that I would have to say about that.
Thanks, Clodagh. Siobhan, do you have anything else you'd like to add to that? Is there anything you wish you'd known, anything you'd do differently? Sorry, you just on mute there, Siobhan.
I think I really think that PPI is something that's been elevated in the last 5-6 years. So when I was diagnosed, it wasn't really a requirement for a grant proposal. It was only just coming in. So I think I've seen the growth and been with the growth of it. You know, there are tremendous organizations, like Clodagh has mentioned, Patient Voice and Cancer Research in UCD, you know, who have a huge steering group and, you know, cover all the various different cancers and different types of cancers and have a very good reach. And now we have the patient, the PPI network, again, fabulous organization. And we have a public panel associated with that just very recently. So I think we're going to see a lot more from PPI Ignite over the next while. Yeah. Irish Cancer Research, I think, is just, you know, you're so well known as an organization. I saw a question come in there as to, you know, what are there other barriers that you could overcome as an organization in terms of helping to you know, make PPI more accessible to patients, and we've said it's not for everybody, but I wonder, is there a leaflet, or, you know, the way you're given, like I was given tons and tons of booklets about breast cancer. Again, you know, nothing about my specific subtype, but we're working on that. But why not have a leaflet in your daffodil centres, or where, you know, where patients visit, about PPI and about what you do and about how to, so if it's something like, for me, it was cathartic to get involved. You know, there I wasn't working, I wasn't playing sport, you know, which I did throughout the week. I didn't have young kids. I had 5 months of chemo. I had a year of treatment, really, but by the time I had chemo and surgery and everything else. And it just was a no-brainer to get involved in something that would not only help me, but benefit others as well. Mm-hmm. So I would certainly have liked some information from the Irish Cancer Society at the start of my treatment. Mm-hmm. You know, make it available. Why not? Why not? And in terms of matching people to researchers, I think that just happens with time. That's not something that can be done overnight. You know, I'm very specific about what I want to be involved in. I want to be involved in lobular breast cancer research and breast density research. So that's my window of opportunity. But everybody will have different areas where they can be comfortable in. Yeah.
Yeah, we have another question just come in for both Siobhan and Clodagh. What, in your experience, are the most important things that a researcher can do at the very start of a PPI project?
Okay, will I jump in? I think at the start of, I would say to any of our researchers, first of all, have the patient in there from the get-go, you know, so it's embedded in your proposal and not as an add-on. I know sometimes, you know, you're so focused on getting everything else right, and the other thing, have a lay presentation, so that we can share that then with, you know, your patient audience, and so it has, you know, and Clodagh touched on it, that, you know, they're not, it's not that they're not able to do it, they are able to do it. But it's like anything else, when you become so familiar with the scientific side of you know, your research, there are very you know, there's lots of ways in which the patient level of understanding can be overlooked. So it's not that patients don't understand, it's just when the science meets the lay person, we need to make it a little bit more accessible.
Maybe our researchers need a little bit more training on how to make their research more accessible.
Yeah, and that goes back to the question, you know, are there barriers? I wouldn't see it. It's a learning curve, and you know, why not have workshops where you bring patients who have already been involved in research with your younger researchers, early stage researchers, and have them, you know, meet over a cup of coffee. I think you just cannot beat the face-to-face, you know, interactions, and that is what those early stage researchers take away, is the patient voice, and they want to hear from the patient.
And Clodagh, would you have anything else to add to that, or would you agree or disagree or anything?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Siobhan said. It's very important to engage PPI from the very, very start, because, as I say, you know, your research is intending to improve things, whether it's a treatment or scientific research, or if it's social research to improve quality of life afterwards. But unless you have walked in our shoes, you don't really understand how best your research can be applied. So I would say that to reach out to, in order to find your PPI, reach out to the Irish Cancer Society, PPI Ignite, Patient Voice, or support groups in your local area, local cancer support centres, and engage. And as Siobhan said, language is so important as well. You need to try and take out the scientific and talk in your layman's terms. And I found that in the conference there in Cork, where some of the young researchers had to do their presentations in layman's terms, they found it extremely difficult. So yeah.
It's because they're not used to it. You know, they've studied for eons to get to the stage where they're putting in grant proposals. You know, they don't think. It's like thinking in a different language. You know, it really is. I think, and it's like you think in one language, and then when you have to actually, it's not that you don't know the other language, you do, but it's not what you're used to. Yeah. To doing on a day-to-day basis, you know. But the other thing is, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that researchers dumb it down for a lay audience, because that is really not necessary. Your lay audiences are very, you know, they're very well able to take on board a basic level of research, and their understanding is already there. You know, if you're interested in PPI, you're already reading research material and scientific material, you know, and but it's absolutely invaluable when I go looking for something, if there is a lay presentation attached with it or attached to it. So yeah, always remember that that we know a lot, we don't know everything, but together we're an indomitable force, I think, you know, research and patients.
I think that's a wonderful point to finish off on. Thank you so much, Yvonne and Clodagh, and Yvonne as well, who had to run off. But it's a really wonderful webinar. So the webinar was recorded, but it will be available online soon. But once again, thank you so much. It was a brilliant talk.
Thanks.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.